Well, call me late to the party. And this is outside of my usual genre, not being so much political as it is more social, but I do feel like pedophiles are making attempts at tying themselves to the LGBT, whatever the fuck the new letter is today, community. Consensual sex between two or more individuals that are of legal age to make consent in the eyes of the law is fine by me. Whatever strokes for different folks. I couldn't care less. However, note I said consenting adults. Now I'll introduce a face you probably have become unfortunately familiar with.
Let's have a nice civil discussion on pedophilia.
Okay, let's have a nice civil discussion about a crime. However, be aware that no amount of mental gymnastics or pandering is going to get me to agree with you. So long as that is out in the open, let's continue.
First, we need to agree on just one thing, that sexual abuse is not determined by age, but instead on whether or not the relationship involves consent.
Yes, however, in the eyes of the law, consent is based upon age, because humans as a whole are not born fully developed, especially mentally. A bit of research done by the University of Rochester Medical Center is a good place to look at a particular example. As always, a link to the original source will be in the description. Now, keep in mind, this is teenagers they are referring to, not preteens or people below the age of 13. And it states, quote, good judgment isn't something they can excel in, at least not yet, end quote. And, quote, in teens' brains, the connections between emotional parts of the brain and the decision-making center are still developing and not necessarily at the same rate, end quote. Or to put it into a framework that would fit into your discussion of consent, basically, teenagers haven't developed enough cognitive ability to distinguish between what is a good judgment and what is a bad judgment. This is also why we don't allow younger teens to vote, to drive, or to serve on the jury. It's simply because they don't have enough life experience and therefore experience with consequences to form a coherent decision entirely devoid of emotion. So if teens aren't capable of doing this, you know damn well that the younger the child is, the less cognitive ability there is going to be present. So, in other words, you disgusting little prick, no. The young children cannot give fucking consent.
But then one day, a 42-year-old adult comes along and says that while he was 10 years old, he had a perfectly consensual sexual relationship with a 30-year-old adult. 10-year-old him was not traumatized afterwards, the relationship was perfectly fine and consensual, and both of them enjoyed the sexual relationship.
Making it really difficult not to lose my fucking shit here. So the 42-year-old comes out 32 years later after the crime had been committed, and yes, it is a crime, to say, quote, I wasn't traumatized, I actually enjoyed it, end quote. I obviously realize I am paraphrasing there. But what I want to know, since 10-year-olds tend to be very impressionable, is how much of that is this person's own words, unhindered, and how much of that is the abuser's words, instilled upon the child. You see, the thing I think most pedophiles lack the ability to understand is that children are incredibly impressionable, especially when they are younger, and will listen to whatever an adult says, because that adult is an authority figure. So unless this 42-year-old can prove without a shadow of a doubt that he was not affected in any way, I'm just not buying the snake oil.
Fantasy story that I just pulled out of my ass. There are numerous stories of children below the age of 12 who have had mutually beneficial relationships, sexual relationships, with adults.
Well, here's a little side note to that citation you have there, you slippery little weasel. A, in non-Western cultures, fuck off with that shit. B, these kids were doing these things with other kids imitating adults, which the things that make my fucking skin crawl just got a new thing added to the list. But the reality is 2 7-year-olds or a 7 and 8-year-old playing games is a hell of a lot different than a 20-year-old coaxing a 10-year-old to play with their genitals. This goes back to brain development. You see, the child has no understanding of sex or the consequences thereof, and therefore, keep with me, you fucking slopehead, they cannot give consent because they probably don't even know what consent means either, but never mind. They don't understand what they're giving consent to. And if you opened up this Pandora's box you have your nasty little hands on, you would find a bunch of adults enticing kids with the promise of candy and other things because, and I'll reinforce my point here, they don't understand or have a compulsory understanding of what consent is. Never mind the consequences of sexual intercourse with Ronald McDonald in a fucking panel van. God damn it, this pedo shit pisses me off.
But most pedophiles, like most people, do not want child abuse. Most pedophiles and people in NAMBLA absolutely condemn rape and child abuse. Whether you were biologically born with that sexual orientation or you were influenced by your surroundings, if you just have the desire to have a perfectly consensual sexual relationship with a child, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Okay, they may not want to inflict harm or not, but it doesn't change the fact that they are doing it. Serial killers may feel that what they are doing is helping, and that their actions are good, and I'll provide an example here. And a link to the article will be in the description. The fact is, it's still immoral, wrong, and illegal, because the abuser has a far more developed brain than the person being abused. It shouldn't be difficult for you to understand. But you are arguing for pedophilia, so I guess I shouldn't expect too much in the way of mental capacity for rational thinking. Also, the fact he brought up NAMBLA should erase any ambiguity about how fucked up in the head this guy is. Children cannot give consent. So regardless of how you argue, oh, they said yes, they gave consent, your argument holds no water, because they don't understand what they're consenting to, you disgusting fucking cunt. Also, how smug he's being is really pissing me off. Seriously. One last thing is an annotation at the end of this. Stop acting like it's an orientation. Stop trying to attach to the coattails of the LGBT community, you pile of fucking garbage.
Pedophiles, like the LGBT community, seem to exist in very significant numbers in society. Why should we immediately discriminate against such a huge group of people, say that they are scum and they should be imprisoned when they have done absolutely nothing wrong?
Their numbers are irrelevant. A crime is a crime. And outside of the legal ramifications, the reason why pedophiliacs are viewed with such disdain is because they prey upon the youth. They take away the chance of a normal life for the simple chance to assuage their desires. We also view rapists with disdain for the same fucking reason. I will, however, give leniency to the concept that so long as they don't act upon their urges, they should be left alone. In no way should thinking be a crime. However, the minute an individual crosses the line and does act upon these urges, or shows signs of acting upon these urges, such as coercing children to follow them, getting into a vehicle with them, etc., legal action should be taken. And this isn't a difficult concept for you to wrap your smug little cunty head around, flat dick. Don't destroy a person's fucking life just because you want to satisfy your desires. And once again, you are not part of the LGBT community, and you never will be, so long as this world maintains some semblance of fucking sanity.
There are people who realize that they have a sexual attraction to children, but since society discriminates against pedophiles so much, these people contemplate suicide. There are even stories in the US where adults apply electroshock therapy to boys as young as 12 who think that they have a sexual attraction to children. Like, what the fuck?
I'm going to leave the link to the direct post where he gets the shock therapy story. And it seems to be just that. A story. On Tumblr. Amos, we call this not being able to substantiate an argument. Now, if it were true, being 12 and being attracted to other 12-year-olds, or, children being attracted to children, is entirely normal and is in no way illegal. Being attracted to kids that are your own age is not a form of pedophilia. It's when an adult is attracted to a child of far less mental development that the issues start to arise. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, so I won't go off on another tirade. But since I am on his citations, I'm going to pick apart another one. Notice the sample size was only 80 people. In no way, shape, or form does that dictate a rule or a statistic that you can look to as a way to help float this boat full of bullshit you have. 30 to 150 children attracted to younger children, almost half will consider suicide. So less than 15 to 75. The fuck? Also, here's a novel idea. Maybe they're depressed for an entirely different reason, and you're just trying to use it as an example to help normalize something that should never be fucking normalized. Because we're not knuckle-dragging primates. Yet, if people like you keep trying to tear apart the foundations of not only our culture, but also our understanding of psychology and how the brain develops, we'll be slinging shit at each other from slingshots made of our pubic hair in no time. God damn it, I really hate atavists.
I do not want to live in a society where we condone this kind of discrimination and hostility towards a group of people who have done absolutely nothing wrong. This is vile.
And I don't want to live in a society where we condone preying on children, treat it like it's just as natural as two consenting adults who have the mental wherewithal to understand what they're doing deciding to have sex. There's a reason why we don't let 16-year-olds take out a loan. Just like there's a reason why it's illegal and looked down at by society when a 30-year-old sleeps with a 16-year-old. Because the younger person is being taken advantage of. And I know you don't see it that way because you're a convoluted little parasite, but that's the way it's viewed. And no amount of cries of oppression is going to phase or alter my opinion in any way, shape, or form. And with that, I am done with this scumbag. I can't take any more of his irrational arguments, his pathetic attempts at contributing pedophilia with the LGBT, or his seeming inability to understand brain development. And like I said, I know that I am late to the party, but I was A, keeping my schedule, and B, disgusted that something as obvious as what I'm saying in this video even needs to be fucking said. So, with that, if you liked it, please leave a like, subscribe if you're so compelled to do so, and I will see you guys on Thursday with, well, frankly it won't be a rant, but it'll be something interesting. Anyway, I will see you then. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night. See you cunts later.